You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, and welcome to the Middle Age Movie Reviews Podcast. Three guys saying, we watched him for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking at this night, inhumanly patient, waiting for some secret, silent alarm to trigger him off. Death has come to your little town, listener. Now you can either ignore it, or you can help us by telling everybody to listen to this podcast about it. My name is Tim, and I am your doctor tonight. And my podcasting partners are...
Maddie McDouble.
Joey.
All right. Joining us this evening is a guy who always whistles in a 5/4 time signature from the Grawlix podcast. It's Randall. Say hello, Randall.
Hey, everybody. What's going on?
Also joining us this evening, after smelling blood in the water from the Cybernetic Shark and the MCU's Bleeding Edge YouTube channels, it's Cyber. Say hello, Cyber.
Good evening, folks. Ready to speak and talk about some Halloween.
All right. Joey, why don't you tell us what we will be starting the horror movie marathon with tonight?
1978's Halloween, written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, directed by John Carpenter, and starring Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis, and technically Tony Moran. It's number 657 from the book 1001 Movies You Should Watch Before You Die.
Okay, guys, before I ask our usual question, I just wanted to point out that this is the final review for our Halloween Horror Review Month. This night also caps off a double night as well. This is the second film we're reviewing by John Carpenter. This is the second time that we're seeing PJ Souls, and we have two film fanatics as guests, and we're reviewing Halloween for Halloween night. Therefore, Joey, let's get a little nostalgic and tell me the first time you watched Halloween.
Here's a shocker on TV. Like most of the movies that we've been talking about lately. Edited for television. Probably with extra footage that they shot for television while they were filming Halloween 2. So sometimes it's a little weird when I watch this, the R-rated version on home video, because I sometimes remember these little things from the TV versions. So I watched a much more boring version, and without the breastitis, because there really isn't any gore for them to cut out. Even way back when, it's not. They might have cut a few things a few seconds shorter for TV, but really there's not a lot of gore in this movie. And it did scare me as a kid, because I was the age of our trick-or-treaters in this movie when I first saw it on TV. It came out a year before I was born, so what do you expect? I saw it when I was quite young. And I gotta say, it holds up, but it's kind of tame by today's standards.
Right. How about you, Randall? When was the first time you saw Halloween?
Well, while this didn't implant any false memories into my childhood, I don't remember there not being a Halloween movie. I have no idea when the first time I watched this was. This was one that got played yearly around Halloween, of course, in the house as I grew up. So when I was young, I'll say.
Okay. So your dad didn't immediately, throw you in front of the TV with Michael Myers playing, but somewhere around there.
Somewhere, yeah, young enough that I don't remember the first time.
Gotcha. All right, Cyber, how about you? When was the first time you seen Halloween?
So, just like Joey, the first time I saw it was, of course, on TV, edited, of course, probably mid-'80s. My mom was watching it, and I ended up sitting down and watching it with her. And my mom was a huge horror fan growing up. She grew up during the time of a lot of those films coming out. She was like 13 when that came out. She was 10 when Jaws came out. So she was really big into the horror films back then. So she always had some sort of horror film going on in the background on TV. And my first time watching it with her on TV Of course, just like Joey said, the breastises weren't shown on TV, but were pretty close at the time because TV didn't have as restricted, I feel, as they do now. But I remember thinking, like, watching it, going, "Oh, I wonder if that scene's edited." I'm not 100% sure, but most definitely, this film is definitely not a huge graphic, gory type of film. I mean, all the kills, if you think about it, were all pretty tame for its time in '78. So I think that, first approach to it, I think it's kind of almost like watching a thriller almost, to a point, and I remember thinking I was not scared of this movie at all. Like, Michael Myers didn't scare me at all. I thought he was, cool looking because of the William Shatner mask. And I just remember really enjoying it the first time, and I got hooked from that first moment and, started watching it regularly throughout the years. So I had a really good first experience with it.
Nice. How about you, Tim? When was the first time you saw Halloween?
I've had a very strange journey in my Halloween experience. So my actual first Halloween was Halloween 3 Seasons of the Witch. That was my first introduction to the Halloween franchise, of which, was there like 13 movies? What do we call this at this point? I mean, there was a duology, a trilogy, quadrilogy, quintology, sexology. What do you guys call it when we're at 13? Yeah,
a chronicle.
My wife and I had this conversation. I think it comes down to you just call it an 80s slasher teen horror franchise. That's where I came up with.
Yep.
Yeah, it's franchise.
I think at 13 you're done. We gave up at dectology. That was as high as we could get in the ologies before we gave up. So, but getting back to your question, yeah. So actually, my first time of watching the original Halloween movie last night. I realized after I watched it, I have never seen this movie. I've seen bits and pieces of the other ones. I've seen Halloween 3 all the way through. Only watched this one for the first time last night.
That's fucking crazy.
That's incredible.
I know, but fresh perspective. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing some fresh perspectives from you then, Tim, as you said. So, I'm kind of in the same boat with everybody else. I've seen this movie when I was younger on TV, slightly edited, and then I don't think it was until like H2O when in 1998 when they came out with that film that I went through and rewatched all the Halloween movies except for Halloween 3. I've yet to see Halloween 3.
Whoa, what?
Because I got yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Because I got sucked into the Michael Myers character, and once I realized when it came out, it became a movie that's kind of been with me for the longest time because this movie is as old as I am. So it came out in October of '78, and I came out in October of '78. So,
and yet you seem to be well adjusted, or are you?
Yeah.
So they made this movie in 1977, and your parents made you in 1977?
Yes, they did.
They probably got so excited by Star Wars and the awesome love scenes in that, they came back and created a mat.
If you're referring to the incest, I don't know.
Well, Matt does live from a little town where, that's not exactly not a questionable subject.
Yeah, I'm from Illinois, but not that part of Illinois. Anyway, speaking of Illinois, let's dive into the synopsis of Halloween. You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
All right. Timmy, hit me with it. What do you want me to do this with?
All right. I'm glad you succumbed to this and just realize it's something you must do now. So tonight, in the spirit of Halloween, I would like you to read the synopsis like William Shatner, who is mad because he did not get a movie credit since they used his likeness as Captain James T. Kirk for The Mask.
All right. Here we go. Fools think they can come out with a movie with my likeness and not give me credit? I mean, Halloween. It all started in 1963, the same year as Star Trek. And it had me in it. Oh, no, it's 66. Man, I totally cocked that one up. All right. Take 2.
Keep going.
All right. Yes. So, a cold Halloween night in the 1960s. A 6-year-old Michael Myers brutally murdered his 17-year-old sister, Judith. Oh, the humanity. She was such a beautiful young woman. taking so early in life. He was sentenced and locked away for 15 years. But on October 30th, 1978, while being transferred for a court date, because court is very important, a 21-year-old Michael Myers steals a car and escapes Smith's Grove Sanitarium. He returns to his quiet hometown, not too far from the infamous town of Shermer, Illinois, the town of Haddonfield, Illinois, where he looks for his next victims. Will the babysitters be safe in Haddonfield? Find out tonight.
I don't know, Matt. You lost your happiness at the end. I think you should do it all over again. No. Nicely done, Matthew. Nicely done.
All right.
And listener, just so you know, Shatner actually did sue them for the likeness, and he won, and he donated all the money to charity. How that
Of
works,
course.
I don't know. But he did actually sue and win. So spot on, Matthew. Well done.
Thank you.
Star date, October 31st, 1978.
A date.
It sounds like maybe
that will
Joey
live
might want
in
to
infamy.
try.
I
Then we
sued
already-
them because it was my face on their iconic horror villain. I
My
don't know.
mug, as beautiful as it is, must be paid for each showing. Do we have a great debate on who could do the best Shatner already? This has come up once before.
I'm not a
I think it
Shatner
has.
guy. I can't do Shatner very well.
I don't.
It
You
comes
got the
down
cadence.
to the thing that we got to remember that in 1978 that this was wait time for 'em. Star Trek. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Because I've got to, mister. I can only
Randall?
do Ace Ventura as Shatner.
Randall, I
Randall,
think
you
you got
wanna
to
weigh
throw
in on
down.
this?
You got to weigh in on this, buddy.
I'm good. I don't know what that was. That felt a little bit more like Dirty Harry. We're doing Clint Eastwood,
That-
right?
That was Clint Shatner.
yeah.
William Eastwood.
Alrighty then.
All I heard was clit and shat. Getting weird.
All right, guys.
That's
Well,
the definition of
before we-
selective hearing.
Before we dive completely into Halloween, there's one last thing I wanna broach with you guys. And since our good friend Randall Sylvie's over here from the Grawlix podcast and the Grawlix cinematic universe, I've got an interesting theory here I want to throw out to you guys. So let's put on our tinfoil hats and get ready to go down a conspiracy theory for the Carpenter Hughes cinematic universe.
Oh, interesting.
Okay,
That's
hang on.
right.
I think it requires one of these. Okay, go ahead.
That's right. We're going to dive into Halloween and how it all ties to a couple of small towns in Illinois. All right. We all know what happens to the babysitters in Haddonfield. It was so shocking that Tommy Doyle went into this complete coma or like shock, and his parents decided that they needed to go into the witness protection program to another small town in Illinois called Shermer, Illinois. So young Tommy grew up with a new name and a new identity as Brian Johnson, where he went to the school at Shermer High School and became a journalist and moved to Chicago. Now, you might remember Shermer High from The Breakfast Club. That's right. Tommy Doyle, a.k.a. Anthony Michael Hall, is Brian Johnson. And that's why he shows up in Halloween 2018. It's all connected, man.
In Breakfast Club, wasn't he also the one that, like, I think they played it off as maybe he was contemplating suicide, but wasn't he there because he showed up with a gun or
Brought
something?
a fucking gun to school.
Yeah, so, that tracks. The kid's got trauma. He probably just brought that for self-defense.
Exactly. He was seeing Michael everywhere he went.
Yep. I'm
That
on
whole
board.
subject plays a lot differently these days.
Yes.
All right. Well, now that we've gone off into a different tangent, let's sort of go back to the movie. So, Halloween, as I had said, it starts off in 1963 in the small suburban Illinois town of Haddonfield, where a 6-year-old Michael Myers brutally stabs his teenage sister Judith to death with a chef's knife. Probably one of the world's largest chef's knife I've ever seen. And of course, 15 years later, his psychiatrist, Dr. Samuel Loomis, drives with nurse Marion Chambers to the sanitarium, where Michael is incarcerated, to escort him to a court hearing. Now, after Loomis exits the car, because when they pull up to the sanitarium, there's all these insane people walking around the grounds. And of course, that's when Michael jumps on the roof of the car and attacks Marion and manages to steal the vehicle and drive off. That's a lot to unpack. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the question over to you guys. What did you think of this intro of little Michael coming in and killing his sister Judith back in 1963? And I'll turn it over to you first, Cyber. What do you think of this whole opening sequence for the Halloween movie?
So the beginning of the movie, I enjoy simply for the fact that they give you a good kind of rich back history of what you're dealing with. They give you right out of the gate, what basically was the situation that had, made Michael have to be locked up in a sanitarium. And, from our perspective, since this came out 1 year after Star Wars and we were just talking about the whole incest thing, how could you, kill that beautiful woman that was his sister, So, I mean, I was kind of thinking to myself, like, if this was Luke and Leia, I think it'd be a different situation. But anyways, that beginning is really fun. Simply the fact that you get to see the whole killing through his mask. And I thought that was a really great kind of like first person kind of like shooter game type of like, style that I thought Carpenter used very well. But leading up after the actual like killing, the kid that played, 6-year-old Michael Myers, I thought did a really good job. That scene where he's there holding the knife, he looked like a very traumatized 6-year-old. And I thought that kid did a really good job. And, I don't know if he went on to do anything else. I thought he did a really good job in this particular film. Now, the whole, introduction kind of with Dr. Loomis, which I absolutely loved Donald Pleasance. I thought he was a great actor. He had been around for many years, did a lot of fun. And he just did, a lot of just interesting things. And he just overall was just very, I thought really great at all types of things. And this particular role, I just really feel he really pulled himself into almost with a little that method acting, I feel, because, throughout all the movies that he stars in playing the same character, Dr. Loomis, he always stays very much the same. And I thought he did a really good job with that. So the beginning, leading up to the introduction of him and the nurse who ended up being in the Halloween Kills. We got to see her in Halloween Kills, reprise her role, the same actress. And I absolutely, thought that whole sequence was very interesting. Like, why are you pulling up in the middle of a storm? You see mental patients all over the place. Are you going to stop the car and, get out of the car? And so I'm always watching that scene going, Loomis, don't get out of the car. Loomis, don't get out of the car. Michael's going to steal your car. Don't do that. And every time it happens, it's like, you could have avoided this whole thing if you had not gotten out of the car, Loomis. So, in a kind of an effect, it's kind of Loomis's fault that Michael escapes here. Because he is too, I don't know, proud and thinks he knows all to realize that, this is kind of a trap and it's allowing Michael to escape. So I think it's a really great beginning, really fun, and I really enjoy it. I thought it's a really great introduction to the film.
Nice. How about you, Joey? What did you think of the whole introduction to Halloween?
Well, young Michael Myers is, again, stalking them, so we're seeing things from his perspective. The lights go out in the upper bedroom, and so it's implied that the young man and his Michael's older sister are having sex, because we conclude that because Michael kind of sees that guy come down the stairs before he leaves, and he's putting his shirt back on. And so the time between the lights go out and the shirt getting put back on is 65 seconds, because we're watching all this in real time. So assuming that they started to have sex when the lights went out and he was already naked, he was already putting his clothes back on in 65 seconds. And then Michael proceeds to go up the stairs and stab his sister, presumably in the boobies, 9 times, and then comes downstairs and gets berated. Parents probably should have been more alarmed than they were, but they had to go rent the crane and do their cool shot and stuff. But there's a lot of things up in the air, but there's a lot of things that are very good about it. I want to say there's like 4 or 5 cuts, and they did it on a Panaglide. I want to say it's called. It was the Steadicam. It was Panavision's trademarked version of their ripoff of the Steadicam, and it works. It works real well. It's a little weird when he looks up at the knife going down because like he's looking away while he's not looking at what he's stabbing at. But it works for like them, probably needed something to cut away to so they could squirt some blood on the girl's boobies.
Well, if I can just interject real quick, if you've ever like watched children do anything, they never watch what they're doing. I've seen my kids like cut paper and they're looking like way over here and they're cutting in front of themselves. So it's possible that he
it's
wasn't
not like
paying
he was
attention.
looking at the TV while he was doing it.
Well,
But if Silver Shamrock was playing on the television, then that would have made a lot more sense. I don't know that it really felt like quite like the 60s when I was seeing them in their outfits, but I wasn't around back then, so I can't really say. Some interesting choice of underwear for the sister. And then we're seeing 23-year-old Michael. At this point, it's Nick Castle. It's not the Italian goon's name who I said in the intro. Nick Castle's climbing up on the car. I did pause it in 4K, and it's fucking blurry, but it's Nick Castle, and it's very interesting. He does, he gets to know the nurse and feel around by reaching in that window, and then did anybody see the wrench?
yes, yeah.
Oh my god! I think ever since DVD, like the wrench, like that the guy put like up his sleeve or whatever to break the window was really real obvious once we got out of the VHS era. And of course, we're introduced to something that becomes much more significant in the Rob Zombie remake, those Red Rabbit matches. They do serve a purpose in this movie, but Rob Zombie took the matchbook to a whole nother level in his remake.
Gotcha.
It's interesting. It's spooky seeing them, mill about and whatnot, but it's also completely fucking unrealistic. There's no reason that they would transport him at night in the rain. They would have done that during the day.
Right.
And how the fuck did he get out? I mean, Rob Zombie's remake has 2 versions of exploring how he got out. One of them's action-packed and the other one's very rapey. But you don't see that. And then I guess that it leaves up a little mystery, but it's like, that's a shitty fucking hospital. They suck.
Well, Randall, you're our guest who has ties to music. I just want to know, what was your thoughts on the whole intro and the use of the theme song in there?
I mean, what can I say about it? It's iconic. It's iconic. Around, this time of year, if you go into like a department store, you'll hear it playing. So that's something. The opening is cool. I love that we didn't talk about the credits. We don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but I do like it's simple but effective. The pumpkin, very otherwise like kind of low budget type intro credits, black on white lettering on black. The whole opening scene
if
from the
pause where it says Halloween and you have the pause symbol up there.
Mhm.
Oh, not there. Oh shit. Yeah, I fucked it up. Keep talking. Cut that out.
I like that they I like.
Oh, Randall, you went a little robotic there.
Okay, how about now? Am I not robotic?
Okay. All right.
Okay, I like that the opening sequence, the opening scene is from Michael's perspective, and I believe at that point, probably from Italian films, but the perspective, seeing things from the point of view, the POV of the killer was already a trope, I think, even by 78. But establishing that, we're getting that right off the bat, and it's from the point of view of a child is interesting. I agree on the, throws the mask on, can see through the eye holes. Very cool. I agree. It's weird that he looks up to the knife, but I think more than like disguising edits, which is probably also like the case, but it's also drilling home for the viewer that like, yeah, no, he's stabbing. That's a knife. And I don't think they really thought too hard about the practicality of like, why is he doing that? The crane shot. I don't know if it was intentional to be surreal or if they're just like, okay, now just stay there and we got to pull this crane back. But I like kind of the weird surreal feel where at a certain point, they just kind of freeze. They just don't move, but they're not froze. It's like the joke about like old sitcom endings where they'd freeze, but they'll do like a riff on it where everybody just moves, stops in place. It feels a little bit like that, right? Like they just stand there. But that kind of play,
it's kind of like a play. It's almost a stage play at that
Right,
point, where
right.
like they're, that's where the curtain would come in and we'd go to the next seat.
It feels, I mean, it feels a little bit like a stylistic choice. John Carpenter's such an interesting director because he obviously, he's iconic. He's done great films. But when he talks about things, he's just like, we were just trying to get the shot. Or, he just kind of downplays, I don't know, when people compliment him on like the art form, he's just like, I had $20 and a pack of cigarettes. We had to get it done by the end of the day. Like he's just seems like he's very workmanlike, but the movies are usually elevated beyond that. And then the opening scene, or the scene with the when they get to the hospital, also has a weird, creepy, surreal film. It's rainy, it's dark, and then there's all these people milling about out in this field. What is going on inside the hospital? Like, how do they not have any staff? Like, how are they just like wandering about outside? But yeah, I don't know. I like it. It's establishes what you need to know and is slightly surreal. Oh, and Donald Pleasance, I'm sure we'll talk more about him as we go, but he's over the top in the most wonderful way in every movie he plays Loomis. He chews the scenery, and it's fantastic.
He's a terrible fucking doctor, though.
Oh, yeah.
He's awful.
Tim, how about you? Your first time seeing this, what's your fresh perspective on the whole intro?
It's a good intro. I mean, I enjoy the first person perspective of, as the young Michael is making his way around the house and so forth. And I don't know whether this was done a lot before this movie, but I feel like this movie might have been one of the movies that really kind of put that on the map going forward, as far as really using it up, because I think it becomes a pretty big staple, throughout the 70s and 80s. And oddly enough, John Carpenter actually liked the movie and based that whole intro sequence off of, which was Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, because he liked the scene midway through that movie where it pans around a Mexican motel. He kind of had a note where he's like, it was just driven by simplicity, and that's how he wanted this beginning to be. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and it's also kind of cool. It's a movie we covered. So, if you want to know more about that, go listen to our older podcast about Touch of Evil to find out what we thought about that. But thought that was
Tim,
cool.
I misheard you. Did you say something about pussy?
No.
What did you say?
Didn't say that at all. I don't know where you're coming from, Joey. So
I'm really confused because, what did he say that sounded like he said pussy?
Driven by simplicity.
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 Driven by some pussy, and I'm like, what the fuck is going?
Driven
I don't remember that Touch of Evil or this
with an S, simplicity.
Got it. All right,
oh my gosh,
you.
Joey! Sometimes I wonder where your head's at.
It wasn't just write us and tell us. Hey, it wasn't just you, Joe. I heard pussy too.
I'll go back to the tape.
I think he heard it because he wanted to hear it.
Yes. He's still kind of hung up on that whole, bedroom scene, which I have to agree with him. It's kind of interesting. I mean, that, if they went up and had, slept together, yeah, he's right. It was pretty short. I mean, yeah, was it like 1 minute, 6 seconds, basically? But I will say, I don't know. That guy must be magic, because at the end, Judith Myers seems pretty content and happy. So he's the fastest 1 minute man I've ever seen. There you go. So I add to yours, Joey.
Jamie Lee Curtis was on the commentary, and she said it was the quickest shtup in movie history. That's how she put it.
Yeah. I mean, not only that, that's a whole undress done, wham bam done, and then redressing out the door to go meet up with his buddies. So, which good for him, because otherwise he'd probably got the knife too. But yeah, I mean, I like the whole sequence at the beginning. I think it's pretty cool the way to do it. The grabbing the mask, the adding in the eyeballs later on in post, where they make it look like he's wearing the mask. The camera is, that perspective. So pretty cool.
I think the boyfriend would have whooped that 6-year-old's ass. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like he'd have got him in that minute's time, so he's probably been ready for him. But then I enjoy the, when we kind of, move over to the next scene where they're on their way to the sanitarium to pick Michael Myers up, in the present day. And I love the dynamic between the doctor and the nurse, because let's face it, Loomis is serious as a heart attack. And, uh, the nurse is just like, your compassion just is overwhelming and stuff. Like, she's totally doesn't get it, because she's only done like minimum security, like patients and stuff. She's never dealt with hardcore, really, messed up patients. And he's seen it. He's worked with this guy for a long time, and he's so far gone that he can't even talk about him compassionately anymore. And she just can't fathom that, and doesn't figure it out until it's almost too late. And then them pulling up, and when they pull up on the grounds, it's, you see those people wandering around. It's really weird. It's almost zombie-esque, like where you see them kind of just meandering around behind the fence and things like that.
It's like the field shots of Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, a little bit. And or pick any Walking Dead episodes you want. It's like them just wandering around, like that too. But and then he's like, you stay in the car and I'm going to get out. Because, the first thing you want to do is run out of a car when you got a bunch of insane asylum people just wandering aimlessly, and you don't know what the hell's going on, when your headlights can barely, light up anything, because apparently there's no moonlight and your headlights are only like 2 watts a piece. But it did add to the effect quite nicely. And then, him jumping on the car and smashing the window and taking it over and stuff. Kind of interesting. Now, was the first question on any of your minds? Let me throw this out there. How the hell did this guy manage to drive a car since he's been in there since he was 6? That just even like, that was the first thing. I'm like, how does this guy jump in a car and just drive?
Is it?
Anybody have any
They
thoughts?
explain that later.
I mean, they don't. Yeah,
in the shitty sequel.
Oh, did they explain it in a sequel? Okay. Well, I know it might have
In the
even been one of-
2018 movie, they literally spell it out.
Right. But we're not there yet. We're just
Yeah.
here. So, like,
You're
first viewing of
absolutely
this,
right.
Randall, you got a point?
I was just gonna say, I can't remember if it's still in the movie or if it's one of the like extra scenes they shot for TV. But Loomis asks the exact same question, like, who taught him to drive? Like, so they pointed out
It's in the regular
movie.
version.
It's the what?
It's in the normal version.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
there.
Where he asks the
Yeah.
question, but it gets explained in 2 versions of the future sequels.
But I do like that the movie itself is just like, yeah, we're gonna point it out, but we're also not gonna answer it in this movie. So yeah. Of course, it's a plot hole a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah.
Yeah. The best explanation I seen when kind of, reading up on this movie was that all those times he was driven to court cases, he studied Loomis driving so he could learn how to do it. And I was like, okay, plausible. I can give it that. Is that the explanation they give later on or no?
No.
So
There's a
that to
crazy
me-
doctor who was he was like I don't know what the fuck you call it. He was doing his residency, and he taught Michael how to drive, and he spent time privately with Michael, and that's in the 2018 movie that they say that. And then it's implied that the people in the Thorn storyline, the cult, taught him how to drive.
Now, Randall,
gotcha.
is that what you heard too, or no?
Yeah, no, that's right. The Thorn storyline. We don't need to get into all that.
Okay, that's cool. I just wanted to see what you thought.
It's a franchise, right? It's a
Right.
franchise.
I mean, I don't think it's
But
I don't think it's completely unrealistic that he could have had an idea and then figured it out along the way on the way to town. By the time he gets to Haddonfield, he's pretty efficient at it. But yeah, I don't think it's totally unbelievable that he couldn't figure it out if he really needed to on his own, but it is a little weird.
Watching him fuck it up would have been hilarious, especially if it was a stick shift.
yeah.
Realistically, especially when you watch in the 4K, he's not driving around with the mask off. He's wearing the mask in the fucking car. And so he would have gotten in an accident because his visibility would have been shit.
Yeah, no peripheral.
No smog.
Although he doesn't get the mask until shortly after being in Haddonfield.
Oh, that's all fucked up with the hardware store that comes later. It's like they're acting like it just got robbed, and it's like he's been walking around with that fucking mask for like hours.
Yeah.
That's actually a concrete plot flaw.
Well, I do like the idea that he was watching the doctor all those times. That makes more sense. But I don't know if anybody's ever been in a car with a teenager the first time they learn. Nobody gets in the car and drives that well away the first time. They're jerking the brakes, smashing the gas, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, I was like, I don't know about that. It'd been funnier if he'd done some stupid stuff with the car on his way out. I've been a little more entertaining, but I just want to see what you guys thought. That was kind of my first question when I seen it.
It's one of those things where you have to suspend belief to think that, okay, he must have paid attention. Because there is a lot that happens between the scenes that you kind of have to kind of suspend belief or kind of fill in the blanks, because how did he get out of the sanitarium? Why is there nobody working the front gate? Why are all these people walking around? Well, that's because Michael, in my mind, my headcanon, Michael snapped and he knew that he needed to get out of there, and he basically murdered everybody and released some of the patients. So,
but that's never part of the body count. So, I mean, you might assume that, but in the end, we have to, in hindsight, I guess somebody just fell asleep on the job, and then he opened up all the doors as a distraction, and then slipped out.
True. Like I said, it's your mind has to fill in the blanks.
Only 4 people and a dog died.
Right. Well, the last thing I wanted to mention is in the beginning of this movie is I really like how John Carpenter sets the mood for the whole thing. And we had said it earlier in our Untouchables episode, where watching Sean Connery through that scene from the point of view camera that Brian De Palma did, it felt very much like watching Halloween, and you can definitely see it here. The whole sequence of Michael going through to kill his sister Judith. It definitely sets a tone to the movie. It definitely gives you that suspense, that thriller through the film, and just kind of like rings throughout the entire performance. And it's neat because that's like a thread that runs through the entire movie that gives you that feeling that there's anticipation, there's something that's about to happen around some corner. And I think John Carpenter does a great job, playing on that feeling of, okay, what's in the dark just around the corner. You hear the music going, that something's going to happen, and it's just another one of those, deep feelings of fear that reaches right inside of you. So that's what I got from the sequence of the beginning of the movie. So let's go ahead and talk about Michael's perusal or trolling through the streets of Haddonfield. He ends up killing a mechanic on his way to Haddonfield, gets the guy's coveralls. So we have our iconic coveralls that we see in every Halloween film with Michael Myers in it. And he manages to break into a local hardware store where we get the signature mask, which is actually, as we have mentioned before, William Shatner's face from a Star Trek mask that they bleached out to get rid of all the painted flesh tone color.
They painted it again. They painted it white.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, and they fucked with the hair too. Like it had sideburns, and they're like, we gotta get rid of the sideburns. So like there's like all kinds of like little vignettes or things online and about how they made the original mask and people recreated it and shit like that. So like it's nutty. They did some things to try to make it not look like William Shatner, but I mean it's the lips. They hollowed out the eyes. They cut the eyes out more. They actually made them bigger. It was small, even smaller eye holes. So like if you want to look it up online, like Google it, like the original William Shatner mask versus the Halloween mask, and you'll see that they doctored it up quite a bit.
Gotcha.
I think it was a Don Post mask too, wasn't it? Like
I don't know who the manufacturer was.
Yeah, I think Don Post, he was kind of the shit back in the 80s, making masks and stuff. So I think it was a Don Post, which means it was a pretty good quality to begin with.
How about you, Cyber? You got any thoughts on the Michael Myers mask?
Yes, I do. So there was a little well-known movie in 1975 called The Devil's Reign. And it's one of John Travolta's first films. It also stars William Shatner.
It's not about diarrhea either.
No, it's not.
I thought it was.
And so Don Post, as you guys were just mentioning, that the mask was a Don Post mask. They are. Because for that film, they had to do a full face mask for William Shatner for the film. So they made a cast of his face. And actually, they used that casting for the Star Trek mask and for the mask for Halloween. And that's what they based that mask off of, was actually that cast of his face from that film in 1975. Because Don Post was really well known. That company made amazing masks and casts and stuff like that. So I think that it's really cool, kind of how that same die cast was used from The Devil's Reign to create these masks that they have created into what is Halloween's mask now of Michael Myers. And I just remember finding that out, and I was like, that's very interesting. So I thought that was a cool little tidbit about the Michael Myers mask, and how not just it being that William Shatner Star Trek mask and becoming the Michael Myers mask, it also was from a whole other film too as well. So I think that's really
his
cool.
eyes get blacked out too in the movie. That's part of the spoiler alert for Devil's Reign. Everybody gets black eyes.
Yep.
Well, and I think, didn't they approach Don Post? I think they wanted him to make a mask, but they couldn't afford to pay him. So they offered him points. And he's like, no, everybody offers me points to make masks for these horror films. I'm not doing that. And had he done that, he'd have probably made a fortune, so he kind of, ended up shooting himself in the foot. But if my memory serves me correctly, he did make the masks for Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, though. I think that was Don Post masks that were made specifically for that show.
How about you, Randall? Any thoughts on the Halloween mask, or even the Halloween 3 masks?
Well, I mean, they're all awesome. It is amazing. I know we're okay. This movie gets the mask right, and somehow so many of the sequels get it so wrong. Like, I don't know how they mess it up.
Do you think they were trying to make it not look like William Shatner because they thought they were going to get like butt fucked in court?
Maybe.
I could have just used the word sued, by the way, but here I go.
That could be. I'm trying to think of. It might look okay in Halloween 2, but man, as they go,
It does.
It's terrible. I think I don't want to get too beyond the scope of this movie. I think like the most recent trilogy, when your franchise contains multiple trilogies, yeah, it needs a new name. I think it was super smart for them to go like the aged look, and then to touch on Halloween 3,
It also looks more like Shatner in the zombie movie, the Rob Zombie movies,
right,
and the latest trilogy of dog shit. But the masks, no one's complaining about the masks in those movies.
Yeah, you're right. I hated the Halloween H2O. They couldn't even decide themselves while filming the movie how they wanted it to look. There's famously one of the scenes,
that's a shit show.
It's CGI. I don't know, but I think it's great, and it's such an interesting decision to be like, yeah, okay, let's just take this William Shatner mask and take out some of the detail and roll with that. It's a weird decision. Some of the backstory, I guess, with the creator of the mask, that makes more sense. How they got to that connection to like, okay, Shatner mask. But yeah, I think it's kind of brilliant. There's so few horror movie characters with like Ghostface. Like, I kind of hate that mask. Like, there's so few that really work on an iconic level, and you can tell when a movie's trying to like make an iconic look. And this one, it's just like, I don't know. It's like they tripped into it. Maybe they were messing with it. It's like, yeah, no, that's pretty creepy. Let's just roll with that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, gotcha. I think there's really just the top 4. I mean, it's really Freddy, Jason, the Scream mask, and this one. I think those are the four big ones. Am I missing one?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Leatherface, did you say?
Oh, Leatherface. That's a good call. That would count.
Yeah. Okay,
well, it's literally a picture of the guys. It's around the time of, like, I want to say Halloween 4 or 5. So it's one of the shittier masks. They got the guy, one of the guys playing Leatherface. They got Kane Hodder. They got one of the guys playing Michael during that time period. And they got Robert Englund together, and they did like a photo shoot of them together for like a magazine, some kind of, article.
Like Fangoria.
Yeah. And it's like a really famous photo because it's the guys in the makeup, all together, and rightly so, because they are like they're the universal monsters of the 1980s.
So last time they got the band back together, man.
All right. Well, now that we've kind of established our iconic slasher horror monster, let's take a look at what he's doing. He's basically stalking Laurie Strode because she made the mistake of dropping a key off at his childhood home that her father is trying to sell. Now, I have this question to you guys. Do you think he's following her because she's the first girl that he sees, or do you kind of follow along some of the other storylines where she's his younger sister? Thoughts on this? I'm going to go to you first, Tim. Watching this movie for the first time, do you think that she was being stalked because she was just at the wrong place at the wrong time, or because there's something more sinister underneath that whole storyline?
Well, having never seen any of the other movies, my first watch of this one, yeah, she just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, first person he's seen, because he doesn't just stalk her, he stalks the boy as well, and that was the other person he's seen at the same time he's seen her. So, yeah, I think it just and she kind of looks like his sister a little bit. So, yeah, sure, yeah, that would be my take on it.
Okay. How about you, Randall? This being, your probably 700th episode or 700th time watching this movie.
Right.
What were your thoughts on the whole stalking?
No, and I like that Tim mentioned he stalks the brother as well. He absolutely does. I think it is wrong place, wrong time, and it's also teenage girl, probably the same age as his sister was when he last seen her. But yeah, she approached the house. First people he came into somewhat close. I mean, he didn't come into contact with them, but first people he saw approached the house, and I think that's 100% it. Because the whole sister thing, I loathe that storyline, and Carpenter 100% confirms that was never there, like an original plan. That was, whatever. There's a whole deal. He wrote the sequel for some money and had to make connections to make it a sequel, I guess. But yeah.
When people watch the first movie on TV, they might see a scene shot for television during the filming of Halloween 2 that mentions the sister storyline and a flashback when he's young and shit like that. But that is literally something that they came up with when the second movie was getting made. So like that, they kind of what's the word in comic books when they retro do?
Retcon?
They retconned it.
Right.
But it's very confusing for the viewer. They're watching it on TV and they think, oh, it was part of the first fucking movie. It wasn't.
Gotcha. How about you, Cyber? Since Joey's given us his opinion as well, what did you think of the whole stalking Lori?
Well, in all honesty, I mean, without knowing all that information, until after having seen it, hundreds of times, and as time has gone on, you see documentaries, you see behind the scenes stuff, extra features, stuff like that on Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff like that. I personally, when I first, watched it, and before I even watched it again, I always had it in the back of my mind that he killed the first kill he ever did was his sister. So he only goes after family. So my first initial thought was, this has to be somebody related to him. And that's why he's following her and trying to attack her, because he must know her somehow or know about her somehow. So my first initial reaction was that she was related to him in some way. I didn't know in which way, if she was a cousin, a sister, or what. But I definitely thought that she definitely was related to him in some certain way, because that very first initial kill of his, and the only kill he had before he went into the state asylum, was his own flesh and blood. So having that storyline eventually become kind of a part of, into the second film, I get why they went that direction, even though, Carpenter might not have liked that and never had that intention. They kind of set it up that way a little bit, even beginning with how the first killing takes place. So that was my first initial reaction with that kind of storyline.
I see. So you're going, precedent was set. They continue the precedent. Okay. Let's see. I think I got everybody. Yeah, my thought was that wrong place, wrong time. And it just happened to be the fact that she's a young teenage girl that looked a little bit like Judith Myers. And so, this then causes Michael to follow her throughout her day. And I have to say, there are rather neat sequences, like when he ducks behind the bush when she's walking with her friend Annie. There's so many scenes in this movie that is almost iconic now. And I just kind of want to think, to ask you guys, what's some of the most iconic scenes that you've seen or you recall from this movie with her stalking or him stalking her? I'll go to you first, Joey.
You could almost sum it up in like a product search online for Halloween movie and Google Images, because you're gonna see like memes or products looking like the hedgerow and stuff like that. Famous stills from the movie kind of come to mind. Later, she's on the couch and she's holding the knife. The coming out of the shadows when she's discovered the bodies and stuff like that. There's a lot of different shots that, I mean, I guess you could thank the cinematographer for setting up some really great shots, but they persist. People remember those. When you try to think of the other movies, there probably isn't a whole lot of particular scenes that you think of when it comes to Michael Myers and Halloween that, other than Trick or Treat, motherfucker. There's nothing meme worthy out there outside of that first movie where you see literally stills from the film, and that's what people remember.
How about you, Tim? Is there any iconic scenes that kind of pop out to you when you were watching this?
I mean, yeah, I mean, all of them, as far as the, now you see him, now you don't. It's a great thing to work with if done well, and Carpenter executed this flawlessly in this movie. I mean, I like how you see him at the hedgerow, then he's not there. You see him in the clothesline, then he's not there. It's like, did I see him? Didn't I see him? What I enjoy the most about watching this movie, and was very unexpected, because I was really expecting just a horrible slasher gore fest, and it wasn't that. And there's a lot of buildup at the beginning of this film for the payoff that you get at the end. And I thought it was really well executed. It managed to just keep building up the suspense and building up the suspense. And half of it is this Michael appearing, not appearing, Michael appearing, not appearing, Michael following, not following. So I love it. I love the whole, now you see him, now you don't think, because it's, again, just executed flawlessly and really well done, and just super creepy, super creepy.
How about you, Randall? Was there anything iconic that kind of like sticks in your mind? What kind of feelings you get from some of these classic scenes?
Well, first off, Joey mentioned the cinematography, and yeah, like a quick mention, Dean Cundy was a cinematographer on this, and the dude is like, if you haven't looked up his filmography, you should. He shot so many movies. Excuse me, I had to clear my throat. He shot like a majority of Carpenter's most iconic movies. He did the Back to the Future. He was the cinematographer on Back to the Future trilogy, Jurassic Park, just tons, prolific career. But specifically of like Myers stalking around, of course, the hedge, the the clothesline, where she looks down and she sees him like standing behind the sheet that's hanging on the clothesline. That always pops in my mind. That also gets into the almost supernatural ability for him to be a place and then disappear. But then again, that could also play into like at that point, she's been seeing this guy all day. A little bit of the psychological, I don't know, playing with her a little bit, whether that's intentional or not.
We're not really sure if he was there or she just
right.
It was her imagination. But it does make sense, because he did a beeline down the hedges, and then maybe he kept following them from people's backyards.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's so many. And also to touch on, it was mentioned, the buildup. Part of, and if you've seen this movie a ton of times, once in a while, if you're not in the mood for it, it might make the movie feel slow. And I know people without patience for a slow burn type movie will complain about the pacing of this, but I think that works fantastically for it, because part of why I think this works for me anyway is it's almost like a hangout movie. You're just hanging out with these chicks on Halloween, and that's great. It really sets the tone. But then, yeah, you do they're obviously being stalked. It's been set up. There's this guy on the loose that you never lose that like suspense of like, well, where's this going? What's going to happen? Where's this guy what hedge is he going to pop out of next? Yeah, I don't know. It's full of iconic shots, though. It's hard to pick one.
Well said. Yeah, I agree that a lot of those iconic shots that are kind of known for him stalking around definitely gives that sense of foreboding through the entire film. And Randall, if there's someone in the room with you that you can't say why they wouldn't like this movie because of the length of it, just blink 3 times.
Blink, blink, blink. No, I don't think she doesn't hate it. She does not have the patience for it that I do.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, it's
yeah.
definitely about anticipation. That's the biggest thing through and setting the mood through the entire thing. So yeah, I would agree with you, Randall. If you're not ready to have that experience about feeling that, what's the word I'm looking for? Dread throughout the film, the feeling, that anticipation of waiting for something to happen, and of course the big payoff at the end of the movie with the whole thing. Definitely not a movie you want to sit through, but it is well worth it. I think it's a great feeling in this movie. And again, also with the use of the music and some of these shots and the great cinematography, I think that really kind of helps put that feeling into your soul, or into that fear in your subconscious.
This movie, I just want to say real quick, this movie is the perfect example of Carpenter's ability to work within limitations, because it is the way it is, because shooting people talking in a room or walking down the street talking is like the cheapest thing to shoot, right? This was pretty small budget, so a lot of it is just based around, we're watching these girls talk on the phone while making popcorn and carving a pumpkin, and the kids watching The Thing from Another Planet in the other room. Like, there's so much time spent with people just kind of hanging out, and that's definitely working.
It feels
within
authentic.
The budget. Yeah.
It feels authentic. Yeah. And if you don't like the pacing of this movie, go watch Das Boot, and then you come back to this one and be like, "This is great! This is great!" I know it's not a horror film, but man, after watching Das Boot, the pacing in this seems like it's just perfect.
My one storytelling critique from the sense of, like, illustrating things with pictures is I didn't buy the spilling butter all over my clothes with the popcorn or whatever. That didn't get communicated to me. I was like, what the fuck is what happened? I don't understand what's happened. And then later, after all these other things happen, and she's finally got the shirt on and she's explaining it to somebody else, she says that she spilled butter all over her clothes from the popcorn. But I was like, did they put that in as an afterthought? Because they went and watched the dailies and they're like, oh, this is shit. Like, I don't even know what happened here. All of a sudden she's stripping her fucking clothes off. That was, other than that.
Well, not only that,
cinematography.
She has to walk
direction.
She has to walk all the way outside to go to the laundry room of the house. Like, it's a whole separate shed for the washer and dryer.
Yeah.
But I looked it up.
That was bizarre.
I looked it up. That's how houses were made back then. They actually had an external building for the washer and dryer and stuff. I was like, that is just really weird.
That's almost like just having an outhouse out back.
Yeah. Well, maybe there was one of those too. We just didn't get to see it because there was no death scenes in the bathroom.
Her getting caught in the window and the whole laundry aspect, and her ass is up in the air. That's really come back in the 21st century.
Oh,
That's a fetish. The getting caught in the dryer.
I was really, I watching this movie, I'm thinking Joey's gonna say something. I know he's gonna say something about this scene.
Hey man, I'm not saying I watched those videos. I'm just scrolling through the hub, and I'm like, whoa, this keeps coming up.
Yeah. If anyone's gonna go that way, I figured you would.
It's becoming a meme. Like, people make fun of it.
I think you're becoming a meme.
Speaking of people who are psycho, let's talk a little bit about Dr. Loomis. So, Donald Pleasance, how great is he in this movie? I can't remember who mentioned it, that he was very much a method actor in this scene, and it seems like from every movie he's locked into that character. I'd love to hear what you guys think of Dr. Loomis, and you know what, we haven't heard from Cyber in a while, so I'm gonna shoot it over to him. Cyber, tell us, what do you think of Dr. Loomis and his whole interaction with the police officer, and what's happening on this Halloween night?
Yeah, Donald Pleasance, was such a method actor, from his early days when he started out in Hollywood. He had always been one of those types of actors that really put himself into, playing his characters. So playing this character was no different for him than any other character he has played. So when this scene happened, I feel he really got into it, and I just thought it was so well done. And I loved how he was like kind of acting unhinged and acting like, excuse me, how he was, kind of losing his mind almost. And I thought Donald did a great job of presenting that, as somebody that, has been with this person for 15 years, studying them. understanding what they're all about, why they're this evil, why did they do what they did, and stuff like that. You're basically, allowing, basically the devil to leave and, is out there in the midst of doing, killing more and more people. You're basically going to start going crazy because you got to try to figure out how to stop this evil. So I thought Donald Pleasance did a great job of creating a really great kind of persona of who Dr. Loomis was and giving kind of that, more accurate of a thought process of like a shrink, that had dealt with something like this. And I think that he even brought a little bit of a realism to it, to the fact that, definitely if you were in this particular situation and you were really a psychotherapist or any type of, I think, therapist of any sort, and you have somebody that 100% is mentally ill, you would go to whatever extreme lengths you had to stop this person from committing any type of atrocities. So I think that Donald did a great job of giving us a pretty accurate of what a doctor like that would do in this type of situation. And his whole interaction with the cops is absolutely hilarious. The dialogue going back and forth, and the cops kind of just being carefree and like, nothing like this really happens around here type of deal, that type of persona and stuff like that. And he's like, you don't understand the gravity of what's going on here, sir, basically. And so that dynamic just worked really well. So I thought it was fantastically done. I thought Donald Pleasance did an amazing job. And I really enjoyed him as Loomis and in the subsequent films. I just thought, I was so sad when he passed away in 95 and couldn't play the character anymore. I just thought he did such a great job, and I always enjoyed what he brought to his characterization.
I agree with you. I think he was a great, out of his mind kind of performance. Almost a little bit Gene Wilder with his manicness with the gun and talking to the cops. What about you, Tim? What did you think of Dr. Loomis?
Well, I think what Carpenter was looking for in that role for Loomis was finding somebody who is, dignified and educated and highly intelligent to play a psychiatrist. But he wasn't really looking for like a Kelsey Grammer Fraser psychiatrist that's kind of upbeat a little bit and stuff like that. He's really looking for somebody that, is emotionally disconnected and pretty much numb from the horrors he's witnessed from the patients he's had to deal with. Because apparently,
Hey, can we get another remake where Fraser Crane is the doctor?
that would be good. It'd be interesting. Maybe him and Niles together. That would be even funnier. Yeah. But
Niles.
yeah, put the two of them together and they're just running away all the time trying to
Niles.
figure out how to get out of the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's your patient, but yeah, it'd be kind of fun. But yeah, I think, again, he's just really like emotionally disconnected and numb from the horrors he's witnessed from all these, because he's obviously got like a hardcore patient, list that he takes care of. He's not just taking care of like, the bedwetters of the world. This guy is taking care of hardcore, criminally insane people. So, which we kind of get a feel for when he's talking to the nurse. And so I think Donald Pleasance, he brings that. Totally brings that. And it helps too that the entire cast that he's with are basically kids. He's the adult in the room. He's the adult in the film, outside of maybe the cop and a couple of quick other, the nurse and a few other people. But as the main character, he's it. Like he is the adult in the room. So he brings that, kind of authority and adult weight to a film that's pretty much, the rest of the cast is barely out of high school. These are, I bet everybody in that film is under 25, for the most part. So it helps too. That it helps like kind of elevate his character to that status as, look, I've seen the horrors of the world. I understand the way these people work, and you have no idea what you're about to deal with. So I think he really, really brings that weight to the film that it needs to have, if not to an extreme point, where he's carrying the gun and as a little edgy every time he hears the sound, he's kind of pulling his piece out, getting ready to shoot at Michael, things like that. So I think he does a really good job of it.
Nice. How about you, Randall? What did you
I think Cyber has something he wants to throw in.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to throw this in for you guys because as you were mentioning there, Tim, about the age, the only people in that film that were around the right age for their characters were the two kids and Jamie Lee Curtis. Because Jamie Lee Curtis was 19 when she filmed this. So she was just around the age of like a high schooler. Everyone else was born either in the early 50s or late 40s. So most of the people in that cast, all those actresses that we saw, PJ Souls, all of them, they all were like 27 and older.
27
actually.
and 27 and then 28. The two
Yep.
victims.
So yeah, those people were full-grown adults playing supposed high schoolers, which was very common in the 70s, that they had all these people. Like, look at the film Carrie, like we did before. All those people were almost 30 years old when they made that film. So it's pretty funny when they have like adults played these high schoolers, because at that time, if you look at it, 40, 50 years ago, look how young they still looked at 30. So, it really was amazing what they could get away with at those times.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna say, like in 4K, you could see some of the wrinkles on the 28-year-old playing Annie. But Jamie Lee was the only teenager. She was 19 making this movie, and I think they have her playing like a 16 or 17-year-old. But
I think she was 7. She was supposed to be 17.
Okay, yeah, like a junior. So, but yeah. Until I watched it in 4K, I didn't notice the age discrepancy so much.
Well, Randall, how about you? What did you think of our elderly statesman, Dr. Loomis?
I like how you put that, elderly statesman. Loomis is great. Donald Pleasance is great. Like I said, I think I kind of counterpoint to some of the opinions expressed on Loomis. I think he's way over the top in a very unnatural way, but I think that like juxtaposes interestingly with the girls being very naturalistic in their dialogue and their delivery. He says some ridiculous things, and I get the sequels really push far into it, but I feel like he's kind of cracked. He's kind of broken himself. He's not wrong, but I think he's just an extreme character. So I had to look up some of his quotes to remember verbatim some of the things he says. Like when he's talking to the sheriff, he says, death has come to your little town, sheriff. Very moody line. He has lots of moody lines, but he sets a tone, right? He sets a tone. And I think it is important for him to like establish the weight of the situation after Michael escapes.
He's always dialoguing.
Yeah. After Michael escapes at the beginning, he says, he's gone from here. The evil is gone. Who talks like that? He's gone from here. The evil is gone. Like, who talks like that? I love it though. I think it's great. But he's also not like so serious all the time. Like, he has a little bit of depth to him, because one of my favorite bits is, Lonnie, get your ass out of there, or whatever, that little bit. Like, he's such a fun character. And I don't think it's bad for an actor to chew the scenery unless they suck. And Donald Pleasance does not suck. I think he is great, but I think it's intentionally. I think the dialogue is intentionally over the top, and I think he understands, as people say, he got the assignment. I think he understood what it was they were after with him, and I think he nailed it. That's my opinion.
Well, I think the other thing too is I think John Carpenter wrote mainly for the male characters, and Deborah Hill wrote mainly for the female characters.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Why there's such a stark contrast between the male and the female lines in this film. John Carpenter's characters, all the male characters, kind of dialogue, and all the female characters are just kind of it's a natural, conversational lines that they're giving.
And that's a good point. And I like Carpenter's writing, but he is not subtle. And that is, I think, reflected and kind of reinforces your point there. Yeah, that's a good point.
He's about as subtle as an alien ripping out of a dog's mouth.
Now, with that said, now take all of the Donald Pleasant lines, all of Loomis's lines, and give them to Shatner. Can you see him delivering those lines the same way?
Death has come.
The evil
to your little town
is gone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Dude, maybe that's it. Maybe it was written for Shatner, because that line makes way more sense. The evil, he's gone. He's gone from here.
We watch him for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall.
Looking beyond the wall, into the stars, into the galaxy.
Death has come to your town.
Why did they use my mask without my permission? Oh, help me, God.
I have ex-wives and child support to pay.
I feel like we've stumbled into dueling Shatners. I think that might be the title of this episode.
Has everybody talked about Loomis?
You're next, Joey. Why don't you lay down your thoughts on Loomis for us?
Yes.
All right, you guys are all gonna
Tell
fucking
us
hate me.
what you think.
So I listened. I'm going to tell you what John Carpenter thought, and I recommend that anyone who's a fan of this movie listen to the commentary track with him and Jamie Lee Curtis. I think they did it in the 2000s. I think they mentioned that Deborah Hill had passed, so it was sometime after whenever she died that they recorded this. And he's older, and she's being really nice to him because he can't remember certain things and stuff. So I don't know how recent it is. I'm kind of really interested when they recorded it. Anywho, Donald Pleasance shit on this movie. He thought the role was beneath him. The BBC was on set and did an interview with him, and he shit on John Carpenter. And then the movie did really, really fucking well. And he changed his opinion on it, and he said, "Oh, it's great. John Carpenter's great. He did other movies with John Carpenter, but originally wasn't that great to work with." They had 3 or 4 days with the guy. That's it. He was the most expensive actor on the bill, but that's who he wanted. And he told Carpenter the only reason he took it is because his daughter was in a rock band, and she listened to the soundtrack on Assault on Precinct 13, and she liked it, and so he did it because his daughter thought it was a good idea, and he told John Carpenter that. So I think Carpenter wrote some dialogue that kind of like was really kind of like seemed like it was in a, out of a Universal horror movie, and it's the only dialogue that seems like it is, and it's all for Donald Pleasance's character, Dr. Loomis, and it's a little ridiculous. But if it wasn't for Donald Pleasance, I think that character would have just. I mean, it's ridiculous coming out of his mouth when you're watching this as an adult.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been way fucking worse with a lesser actor.
Agreed.
I think he sold the shit out of it. And, at the end of his career, he's like, yeah, I'll do another fucking sequel because he had bills to pay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it all comes down to, really.
I do want to add, it's been a long time since I listened to that commentary, but any commentary with Carpenter on it is usually great. If you can find the Thing commentary with him and Kurt Russell getting hammered, laughing about the movie, dude, I think I want to say I watched it. It's an older one. I think it's from the 90s, that commentary. It's great, but him and Jamie Lee Curtis was a fun commentary to listen to. Yeah,
he's definitely a fun listen to with audio commentary.
Carpenter points out that when they go around the bush and they reveal that Michael's not there anymore, there isn't some boy wanting to ask her out like she's teasing Laurie. He goes, "There it is," and there's this big smoke plume that comes
the whiff
in
of
he
smoke.
was chain smoking behind the fucking camera, and it like went right in front of the lens.
You can't unsee it once it's pointed out.
Well, now that we've talked about Dr. Loomis, we've talked about getting stalked. We kind of know what's going on with the girls. Let's go ahead and dive into what happens that night. So, Michael follows Annie and Laurie to their babysitting jobs. Laurie's watching Tommy Doyle, and Annie's watching Lindsay Wallace across the street. Michael spies on Annie, and of course, that's when we get Michael's first kill of the night, and that's the poor family dog. And this is definitely a movie I can't watch with my wife because she does not like hearing any kind of animal, especially that particular yip sound that an animal makes when it's been, it's had its head crushed by a murderous, 6 foot tall, 200-pound psychopath.
I think he just strangled the dog.
Okay, well, maybe he did.
While we're on dogs, remember like they found the dead dog? And they speculate, well, maybe a skunk got to it. Did anybody else think that was fucking ridiculous?
Wait, what? Did they really say that?
I had to look it up. Yeah, I had to look it up. Skunks do eat the corpses They'll feed. They're opportunistic feeders. They're omnivores.
Oh.
And if they find a carcass, a skunk will feed on it. But I thought that was the most ridiculous fucking line in the movie. Maybe a skunk got to it. It's like, no, they don't show the dead dog, but they're implying that like something ate it.
I guess so.
Anyhow, Michael's an asshole and kills the dog.
Yeah. And then, of course, he's watching Annie, and we get some more of that stalker feeling, As we mentioned, Annie spills butter on her clothes. She goes out to a completely different part of the house to wash her clothes. And it's funny because watching this, I'm just waiting for Michael to kill her in the laundry room. But no, it's not until much later on that he finally when he finally kills her. But
as an adult, I found myself getting like upset that all she's doing is sprinkling fucking Tide on it. You got butter all over your fucking clothes? Those are ruined. You need to put some you need to rub some dish soap on that shit.
You got to pre-treat. You got to when it comes to stains, you have to pre-treat.
You got to shout out. You got to shout that out.
Got to shout that motherfucker out.
Oh man.
Get right on that.
What is this?
Like,
What does this podcast go to? A bunch of guys talking about how to do laundry correctly. Cyber, you want to add anything into your laundry? Your laundry experience there.
Lots and lots of mud. Makes it nice and mushy. Gets it really soft. Might bring out the colors a little bit for you too. Very brownish. Yeah, totally.
No. Right. You only need mud when you're covering up a wound when you cut yourself. You rub some dirt in it.
Yeah,
he's making those Hawaiian dirt shirts.
So yeah, and then of course Annie gets a call from her boyfriend. A little help here. I can't remember what his name was.
Boyfriend.
Okay, so
Cyber. No, hang on. Cyber's thinking. Cyber, what is it? Come on, come up with it. We might break the Cyber on this one.
Was it Steve?
That sounds right. Randall, do you know?
That boyfriend never shows up.
No, he never gets
She was going to go pick him up.
I'm looking it up. Was it Paul? Yeah, Paul.
Yeah,
Paul.
All
right.
Oh,
okay.
Randall beats the Cyber.
I had to cheat.
Ding, 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 ding. Kill.
I Googled. I mean, yeah, no, I did that off the top of my head. I'm an information
there you go.
robot.
There you go. Never admit to Google.
Cyber redeemed.
So Annie decides that she's going to go pick up Paul, but in order to do that, she drops little Lindsay Wallace over to the Doyle house where Laurie's now watching Lindsay and Tommy. And then poor Laurie thinks that, Annie's left her behind. And it turns out Annie gets it in the old car. What did you guys think of the death of Annie? And I'm going to shoot it over to Randall first. Randall, what'd you think of Annie's death?
I like it. I like that she's locked out of the car, so she has to go to get the keys. And then she comes back and just gets in the car without using the keys, without even thinking about it. That, I think, is maybe one of my favorite details of it. I like the shot through the glass. It's all fogged up when she's actually getting strangled. The kill itself is okay. It's one of the... I mean, there aren't too many in this movie, but it's not the greatest. But yeah, I mean, it's shot well.
I didn't fully understand it. Kind of like the butter. Because he's choking her, but then did he cut her neck? What happened? What do you think happened?
I assumed he just strangled her. It's a little vague.
I thought she cut him. I thought he cut her.
Oh, that's possible. Well, in that case, it's definitely unclear if we can't agree on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in
the windows were fogged up, man. The windows were fogged up. Who could tell?
Yeah. I'm in the camp that she was strangled to death, and because the windows were getting more and more fogged up because she was losing, she was expelling the last of her breath. Very cinematic, releasing the last year of your breath onto the window. How about you, Cyber? How do you think she died?
Well, I definitely think that she died by strangulation, most definitely. But at the same time, that actress's death there, the death acting, I thought just cracked me up. Because it was kind of like, like TV style death.
It is pretty hammy.
I was just like,
yeah.
I was like, she was hamming it up, and I was just like, wow, that was considered quality for 1978. I was like, holy crap. I mean, I've seen better deaths by a 2-year-old. You know, so I mean, I was just like cracking up, rewatching it the other night, and going, "Oh, I totally forgot how much she hammed this up." So, but definitely, I think she was strangled to death by Michael. But her hamming it up just made that scene like so hilarious and not like great in any matter or measure. But at the same time, it still is a very iconic death because everyone loved Annie. So. It definitely was a very interesting strangulation sequence.
Gotcha. Anyone else have any final thoughts on Annie's untimely demise?
I like Randall, like the idea that she goes to the car and then jumps in, but there's that 1 second where she opens the door, gets in, gets ready to turn the car on, and she's like, "Hey," before he starts strangling her. Right? Like there's just that 1 second of epiphany where she's like, "Well, this ain't right," So I did enjoy that. I think the only thing that could have made it a little more hammy though is why he's choking. She's like, I think that would have that'd have been a nice touch.
And I don't know why, but
how about you, Joey?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just.
Do you think that Paul was going to choke her like that? We'll never
Joey,
know, will we?
Joey, these are the things I don't ever think about. Just so you know, like
I don't think Paul would have finished her off with a slice on the neck, though. No, he'd have just given her a necklace.
All right, Randall.
And Randall, you were saying, Randall?
No, I was just gonna say, I like Annie. I don't know what it is, but of the characters, she's one of the ones where I'm like, oh, that sucks that she got killed off. Whereas the other characters, I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah, because she says speed kills.
Right.
She doesn't say totally 17 fucking times in the movie.
Yeah, that's probably it. She's one of the least annoying characters.
It's because she's running around in that Tom Cruise shirt, in her underwear. That's
just
why.
Need to slide into some music, man.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
Nice.
Just take those old kills off the shelf. I'm gonna strangle them by myself. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe that death needed a little fart at the end, she released. Then Michael's like, oh, shit. He you finally hear him talk, and he's opens up the car windows. And
that's the part the serial killers never talk about.
I like the idea.
Michael
that
would be the parody version.
Never strangling a woman in a car ever again.
I like the idea.
You gotta roll them windows down, son.
I like the idea of a very tame, bloodless slasher movie, except they just shit all over. It's, lewd in a different way.
Think National Lampoon's got their next idea here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the next two on the docket now is, of course, Linda and her boyfriend Bob, because they show up to the Wallace house because they're going to surprise Annie and her boyfriend Paul. And I think I got this feeling it was going to be the makeout house that night. And of course, they show up at what they think is early. Oh, wait, you know what? I totally skipped the part. I skipped the part where Tommy Doyle sees Michael Myers carrying Annie back into the house. And before I get into the Linda and Bob thing, Tim, what did you think of Tommy Doyle's costume? Now, I realize it says NASA, and it looks like he's a NASA technician. But was it just me, or did he seem a little bit like Luke Skywalker?
I thought it was Luke Skywalker for fucking years, by the way.
I didn't even think about it being Luke Skywalker because I seen the NASA patches, so I was just like, oh, astronaut without a helmet. That was it. It never even dawned on me to kind of match it up with Luke Skywalker at all.
Yeah, I like Joey. I always thought it was Luke Skywalker. Maybe it's a Mandela effect happening there. So that's another hashtag I can put in this episode.
It's blurry VHS. We didn't see the little NASA patch.
Yeah. How about you, Randall, being a fellow Star Wars fan?
I'd never made that connection. I'm looking at a picture of it now, and I think I see what you're saying because it's pretty much just like a white outfit, but he's got the hair, right? I mean, of course, it's 78, it's the 70s, but he's got that Luke Skywalker kind of hair a little bit. Yeah, I never thought about it as a Skywalker costume. That's interesting. That's
Gotcha.
it. That's all. I don't know. That's all I got to say about it.
All right.
Didn't he have a little flashlight on his hip that could have been mistaken for a lightsaber?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I just noticed that all the costumes that the kids wear in this film are all very generic, like cowboy, 20s, what is it? Not go-go dancer. What were they in the 20s?
Flapper?
Flipper, whatever. Flapper. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, like there's a couple girls that come running out of the school like that. There's a cowboy. There's a sailor. So very generic costumes.
I think there was
So-
some Raggedy Ann and Andy type of looking things.
Yeah.
Somebody had like red yarn hair or some shit.
So when
Yeah.
I seen the astronaut, I didn't think nothing of it, but probably to the fact that I seen it, on a 1080p, non VHS, clarity pretty much probably gave it away for me as far as it being an astronaut.
Gotcha. Again, probably the classic seeing what I want to see. So anyway, back to and Linda and Bob. So they show.
I gotta talk about what you were talking about. You said Tommy Doyle saw Michael carrying Annie.
Right. Yes.
I got so fucking frustrated because that little boy saw what he saw. He wasn't imagining it. He saw that man carrying that woman, this boogeyman that's been stalking him. And you go back and watch it, and he's fucking pleading with her like what he saw, and she threatens to turn off the fucking TV, and he dropped.
Right.
That's a serious threat by the babysitter. I don't know about you, but back in the day, if this babysitter's like, I will turn the TV off, you got real quiet real fast and parked your butt back in front of the TV.
I would not have dropped that. I would have been like, I would have called the fucking police myself. He can pick up a phone. But she threatened to turn the fucking TV off, and he immediately dropped it. That's it. That's all I got. Fuck Tommy Doyle. It's all his fault.
Randall, what do you have?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Fuck Tommy Doyle. He sucks. And if you want to lump in the new trilogy continuity, he extra sucks, man. I hate that character. No, yeah, it is frustrating. Joey's right. He really should have pushed on that further. But I think, it's the classic horror thing of like, well, nobody believes the kids. The kids, oh, nobody believes me. And when he literally seen a killer carrying a body outside. Yeah, I don't know. Tommy Doyle's a little shit.
Yeah, but as a babysitter, and it's Halloween and you're letting these kids watch all these horror films, you're going to be like, shut up. You're not, look, if you can't handle this, I'm not going to let you watch these scary movies. I mean, it's totally on par. I mean, it's exactly what you would expect.
That's a good point, too. It is literally Halloween, so there are going to be scary looking people walking around outside.
And they're a small town out in the middle of Illinois where nothing happens. So she doesn't know about Michael Myers roaming the city because they haven't put anything out in a news bulletin. There's nothing for her to base his plausible ability of this scene. She's coming from a point where this is the kids imagining things because it's Halloween, stuff's happening. So yeah, that's like Tim says. I think it's plausible that she would just dismiss it. Cyber, any thoughts on this?
On the Tommy Doyle and seeing Michael Myers take Annie's body into the house. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm at the same page here. Yeah, I mean that whole situation is that same situation where cry wolf type of deal. Unfortunately, a lot of kids will say they saw something and they really didn't. But in this case, of course, Tommy Doyle really did see something. And so it's kind of hard to believe him, when, he's kind of cried wolf before and nobody else sees anything. And, him just being a kid, a lot of adults really don't, go, oh yeah, I can believe that kid. It's a kid. He's making things up, type of deal. So I think that whole situation in the film itself, it just kind of really envelopes, giving you kind of that reality check of kind of a situation like that. If a kid was saying something, it's kind of like it could be true, it couldn't be, type of deal. So, Tommy Doyle, sorry, but the world fucks you. Sorry.
You have to learn early in life that life's not fair. You're not always going to get what you want. Unfortunately, the babysitter's always going to be right. So anyway, back to Linda and Bob. So they show up to the Wallace's house and they see that nobody's home. So they make use of the house and they do the horizontal tango. And Bob then heads downstairs to get a beer from the kitchen. And that's where Michael strikes. And I got to say, out of all the scenes where we get a very robotic looking Michael Myers, almost like a Terminator, there's another hashtag I can use. He kind of does this thing where he cocks his head and looks at the dead body of Bob after he's impaled him with with the knife through the door, through Bob into the door. I gotta say that takes a lot of. Let me ask you, what did you guys think of Michael's kill of Bob in the scene? And I'll go to Joey first. Joey, what did you think of that?
I'm glad you asked. If he had that Herculean strength, some Mythbusters level of how much force does it take to impale somebody against a door? He did do it in the stomach, so the guy would not have died. He might have been paralyzed or something like that, but he would have basically been screaming, "Get me off this fucking door! Oh my god!" That's it. That's all I got, man. It looked really cool, but as an adult looking back, and I'm like, oh, that guy would have been screaming. He would have just been there. It's like, can you at least finish it off? Holy shit, this.
How about you, Tim? What did you think of Bob's death?
I was really distracted by it. More so because he finishes him off, stabs him, and then the dude just hangs there in the door. Now, I'm sorry, but that's either the hardest piece of wood on the planet with a knife that has the greatest tensile strength I've ever seen. Because, I'm sorry, but I mean, I know it's a big butcher knife, but there's still, less than an inch sticking in that door, and it's holding up an entire human body that's at least 165 to 185 pounds with one butcher knife. Like, that's where I get pulled away, which I know is a weird thing for me to get caught up on, but I just, like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, and I didn't even think about, like, the guy shouldn't be dead yet either, other than maybe passed out from shock. But yeah, it's just stupid. Just stupid.
Randall, what do you think of Bob's death?
I realize that it is unrealistic, but I think it's the greatest kill of the franchise just because it's so iconic. And it's not just pinning him to the door. It's, of course, the head cock afterwards, right? That's been copied 1,000 times since and is super cringe every time I see it in another movie, but whatever. It's like, that's Michael's thing, and that's Michael's things once. Okay, he's bewildered also that it's working, that it works the way it does, right? No, yeah, whatever. I like it. It. It is ridiculous, but it is, I think, the highlight kill of the movie for me.
I have to agree with you. I think it is my favorite kill of the movie, because like we said, he just kind of like cocks his head. Like, I'm half expecting him going, holy shit, did I do that? Is he really? He's really, yeah, he's up in the air. Wow. Guns.
And you get so little insight into him at all, really, that just that head cock is just like, huh, okay, what's he thinking about? Like, what? It's interesting. Whatever. It's an interesting moment.
Oh, did we lose Randall?
Can you not hear me?
I think
you still there, Randall?
Everyone's in.
There you go.
On Halloween, everyone deserves one good dump.
No, I'm here. Can you not hear me?
Oh,
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
You just kind of stopped abruptly, so either you stopped or we lost you for a minute. I don't know.
I think you lost me for a minute. Weird. I didn't notice any indication of that on my side. Yeah, whatever. I was just saying that it's interesting because we get so little insight into his thought process or him as a character, that even just that little head cock is like, huh, what's he actually thinking about there? What does he find so interesting? What? Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
Gotcha.
Huh. Sorry.
This is my United States of whatever.
Oh my god, that's a reference. Holy shit.
I was thinking the exact fucking same thing right before he does. He goes, whatever.
Cyber, did I get your thoughts on Bob's impalement?
You did not. So yeah, I mean, Bob's death is pretty basic, in the scheme of kills. He lifts him up, stabs him in the stomach, sticks him to the thing, and just like everyone else has said, it's very unrealistic. Like, as Tim mentioned, like the tensile strength of that knife and the door there for 160 to 185 pound man, that just doesn't seem possible. So him just hanging out there after he's killed him, and Michael kind of like staring at him, you're just kind of like, this is kind of odd at the same time as so unrealistic. But, it's fantasy. That's just what it is. But at the same time, I was thinking to myself, as Joey was mentioning how, you get stuck in the stomach and you be screaming. I'm thinking he's still euphoric from the fucking. Because, he's very euphoric. He's just euphoric. So he probably didn't feel a thing. Because he just got done, doing PJ Stoll. So it probably, that's why he kind of was like dazed, confused as he gets stabbed. So, that's what I was thinking to myself. I'm like, maybe that is what, he didn't feel a thing. So I'm thinking
He
that
came
Bob
and
died.
went.
Yes, I think Bob died and felt great. So that's where I leave that out. At Mr. Bob had a great death because he just got laid. So I would say, what a way to go.
Maybe he's not dead. Maybe all his blood's somewhere else. He was unable to bleed out. So maybe he's still alive.
Maybe
He's
that
just
too.
passed out. Like
I think what would have made that scene even better is if he saw the Michael, and he like kind of talked to him in a William Shatner voice or something. He's like, "Why are you staring at me like that? How dare you kill me?" End scene. Great scene.
Actually, with that in mind, I think the better one would have been him just looking at him go. And then
The physics of that kill would work in space.
yeah.
I want to see that again in
In a
space.
vacuum, in a
And then he
vacuum.
stabs through the heart instead. So he's dead and he's impaled and his weight's not pulling him off. Or you do the same kill and the guy screams and the scene keeps going because the guy's like, "Oh my God." And then the knife started to like go through him. Maybe they use a railroad spike. I don't know. But it would get way worse and eventually come up through his shoulder.
So I think what we're saying
How
is
would they
if
have
this
a railroad spike in space?
I don't know. Let's just get let's just get somebody with like a bolt, like some kind of space bolt shooter.
So, sounds like the next Halloween
remember
film.
Dark Man where he's shooting the bolts at him at the end of the movie? Space bolt gun.
I mean, hey, Jason went to space. Why can't Michael Myers go to space?
Yes, Michael in space, astronaut. That would be even better if he implodes. So he does stab him in the stomach, but that's a hole in the suit. And so then you see the guy's head implode in the bubble mask, and then he's dead, and then he stays there because he's floating. Perfect, done. Michael in space. Let's get to it.
That'll be the end of the franchise right there. That's jumping the shark. That's like
No,
putting Leprechaun in space. Okay,
dude, trick or treat, motherfucker. That's all I have to say. And it kept going.
No, I think the death kill for Leprechaun was in the Hood.
Michael
They
Myers
did
and Mars
return
Attacks
to
2.
the Hood. That was their biggest moneymaker sequel, Cybernetic Shark. They did a sequel to Leprechaun in the Hood because it was successful. And then they put iced tea in it.
well, I think we've gone a little too far. We've gone a little too far. We're out in space here.
Franchises, yes.
Let's bring it back into to the bedroom with PJ Souls. Michael pretends to be Bob, pretending to be a ghost, and walks into the bedroom. And of course, PJ Souls is just teasing him, asking for a beer and everything. And then finally, she just gets tired of teasing him, and she decides to call up Lori to find out what happened to Annie. But before she can complete the call, Michael comes over and strings her to death with the phone cord. I gotta say that's kind of atypical for a lot of horror movies, is getting strangled to death with the phone cord. I think this kind of like sets a trope for a lot of horror films. What did you guys think of poor PJ Souls and the last of her performance in this scene? I'll throw it over to you first, Joey.
I gotta know, was that family like chain smokers? Because she's smoking not just like in the guest room, not just in the house.
I think it's in the parents'
there's
bedroom.
ashtrays all over that fucking house. Then like, hey, well, the whole house smells like a fucking ashtray. They're not gonna know.
It was the
She's a fucking horrible friend.
It was the 70s. Everybody still smoked then, so there's probably ashtrays all around, right?
Yes,
And
kids
the
we used
sheriff
to make
definitely smoked that fucking. He's definitely smelled that joint.
as kids we used to make ashtrays in art class to give to our parents. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck, McDonald's had ashtrays in the freaking dining rooms.
Thank you.
They
Yes,
smoke
I forgot that. You're right.
the non-smoking and smoking section, much like the non-peeing and peeing section of a pool. Yes.
Dude, in the 70s, I don't know when they stopped this, but you could probably still smoke in hospitals in the 70s. I know you could when The Exorcist was earlier, but you could when The Exorcist came out. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rewatch Halloween too.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on in the hospital there, huh? Yeah. I mean, if John Carpenter's on set, it don't
That's
matter.
right. The nurse was fucking smoking in the car.
Everyone's smoking.
Yeah, but that was a car. How about you, Cyber? Before we get too far down a rabbit hole of cigarette smoke, PJ Souls.
PJ Souls. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I had like that rabbit hole we just went into. Yeah. I mean, her death with the classic trope of those times, strangulation seemed to be very common in these types of films, and several of the slasher films throughout that time, and just kind of through like horror films in general, I feel strangulation was just kind of one of the number one killers of most people.
Right.
And so the fact that they have her being choked on the phone while she's on the phone with Lori, and she's like, "Oh, so first Annie calls me with her thing, and then you call me with these noises. How dare you?" You kind of deal, which was really funny. And she's like, I definitely thought PJ Souls did a lot better job of dying than Annie did. So it wasn't as hammy, I felt, by PJ Souls. But at the same time, once again, kind of going back to the sister at the beginning of the movie, how could you kill such a fine woman? Like, what is wrong with you? And it's like, he's got this obsession with people that are topless, I guess. So does Michael Myers have an issue with breast is my question for people. Because I feel he does. Because if you notice, majority of the time, the people he kills are always people having sex, which is kind of a horror trope, as even in the Friday the 13th, even the Hellraisers, a lot of these film series, there's always the people having sex is who gets killed first. And so I think it's kind of funny, at a very young age, Michael was that way. So, going back to his trauma as a child, and then he ends up doing it again later on, 15 years later, you're just kind of thinking, what is wrong with this man? You're killing these women that are absolutely just amazing. Like, you got to stop. But anyways, her death I thought was probably the best death of the film. I thought she died very well. I thought it was a really great kill. I mean, after, when Lori finally pops up in the house and she sees her dead in the bed, I thought that PJ Souls just did a great job of playing a dead corpse too as well. So I think PJ Souls really was, I thought, one of the better of the two actresses playing their characters, and I thought her death was a little better than Annie's. And overall, I thought she just did a better job. So, yeah, I thought it was a decent scene and a decent death.
So, Cyber, what I'm picking up from you is that maybe if Loomis had just ordered Michael some breast augmentation surgery, none of this would have ever happened.
Yes, exactly. I totally think so. I think that would have saved
Michael
him.
just be staring at the wall, playing with his own tits.
He'd just be staring at his chest all the
Breathing
time.
real heavy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Choking himself.
Yeah, I think we figured it out. If they just done this,
I think he was jealous that he did not have breasts.
we could have prevented 12 movies worth of deaths. Look at that.
So basically what you're telling me is it boils down to is that Michael was a formula baby.
Yeah, wow. That's good.
That's
good.
right. That's right.
Well, Randall, do you have any rebuttal on poor PJ Souls
Well, I
or formula?
I would say to PJ
babies?
Souls that yes, I see a couple things I like. No, definitely a better strangulation. I find the most odd thing to me about the scene is that Michael takes the time to do the ghost sheet thing and put the boyfriend's glasses over it, which is very comical and seems very odd. Like,
It's creepy as fuck.
it is, but like,
He knew what he was doing because she thought it was him.
And I like how long it takes too. Like he stands there for a while. You're like, okay, that's kind of creepy, and it keeps going. You're like, it just keeps getting creepier. It's really like it takes just a little too far, but in a good way.
and to talk about what Cyber was touching on, like, yeah, this definitely this established a lot of things, at least for U.S. slashers over here. Giallo films had a lot of other like elements that were already existing, but it did kind of establish, or at least get the ball rolling on the if you have sex, you die in these slasher movies. But I don't, and Carpenter said that wasn't an intentional, like, there's not an intentional message to it. I think they were just maybe playing on the, I don't know what the term for it would be, but I'll just say psychosexual, weird, like, sex killers was also a trope in like movies even before like slashers really kind of took off. But I think it's just playing into that whole trope of a psychopath with weird, I don't know what you would call it, weird baggage around nudity and women, I suppose.
Yeah,
Formula babies.
One where
Yeah,
he
if you think
breathes
about it.
super heavy.
Sorry,
Think about it.
everyone kind of talked at the same time. What'd you say, Cyber?
If you think about it, it really, Alfred Hitchcock kind of started the whole thing. I mean, he was one of the first that did it with Psycho.
Yep, that's a good point. Yep.
He, really brought it to life. That, with that first scene, the first big kill in the film, Psycho, with, Jamie Lee Curtis's mom in the shower being killed. And, in several, Alfred Hitchcock films, he made sure that was kind of a viewpoint. And that was kind of became a trope of his films. I mean, look at Frenzy, about the serial killer over in England. And, that was really psychosexual. So I think the word you're looking for, Randall, is psychosexual, which is there's the people have a mental illness about sex things in general.
Right.
And they tend to usually have some sort of sexual experience in the past that caused them to have this unfortunate, fear of it, or this inappropriate thoughts about it, and take it to the wrong level. And that's kind of, this genre, I think, is, with Halloween, is one of those films that really pushed it into the new millennial and really brought it to the forefront. Whereas, like I was saying with Alfred Hitchcock, he kind of was the beginner of it, but Halloween became so popular that I feel it became that predecessor, or that like number one cliche that pushed it into the mainstream. Because slashers up to that point weren't really considered slashers. This was like the film that really defined the word slasher. So I think that is, you're very correct on that, Randall.
I'm going to disagree. Bob Clark. No, that doesn't ring a bell. Bob Clark. Now I can't fucking think of it. Oh my God.
Well, I was going to ask you.
Black Christmas. Black Christmas.
Yeah, I was about to say, I just looked it up. Yeah. Black Christmas.
This movie's emulating Black Christmas.
Yeah.
It's emulating some French films where the camera stalked people. One of which is called The Strangler. It's not totally original, but he did it very well.
No,
so I think I'm not shitting on it.
I think right. I don't think this invented the genre. I think it cemented its mainstream popularity because it was low budget. It made a ton of money. And then so producers like, holy shit, let's mock up a poster for what? What's that? Friday the 13th? What's that about? I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. Like, I think that it started the 80s. Like, there was such a boom during the 80s. So, yeah, it didn't invent it, but I definitely think it cemented it, at least throughout got the ball rolling into the 80s.
It put on the map.
They did any holiday they could think of. I mean, they did April Fool's Day, for fucking sake.
It basically put it on the map for the American viewer. It put the style of movie on. And that's what it really did. It brought it to the American audience and made it a mainstay for, decades to come.
Yeah.
Agreed. They're cheap to make, and they always make money.
Well, that's pretty much brings us up to the final battle in the film. We're pushing on 2 hours, so I'm gonna briefly just kind of run through. So Lori runs checks out the house. She sees all of her friends are now dead, and she's been chased out of the house by Michael Myers after he's tried to stab her in her arm. She runs across the street, screams bloody murder for help, and then she has a final showdown in the Doyle house. And of course, that's where we get a really neat scene of her hiding in closets. What did you guys think of the final 8 minutes of the film and all the different symbology used to kind of drive the story plot home? And I'll go to you first, Joey. What did you think of the end of this movie?
Michael gets fucked up. Sewing needle to the neck. Ouch. I think he would probably pass out pulling it out. So the second time he gets stabbed in the eye with the coat hanger. So if you don't notice, the Italian guy, whose name I mentioned in the beginning, we see he's the unmasked Michael there, and he's got some makeup on, so his eye looks all fucked up. Like when I was a kid, I was thinking, oh, is this like Jason Voorhees? Is he disfigured? But later I'm like, oh, it's the eye poke.
Yeah, same here, actually.
And he gets stabbed.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, we just figured like, no, this came first. He's not disfigured. He's just fucking crazy. Maybe he's really fucking handsome. I don't know. But and then we get Loomis unloading all 6 shots into him. It's Michael didn't fare well, and he can't fucking stab with his shit. He misses her on the couch. He sliced her, like he half-ass sliced her when she fell off the balcony first. Yeah, he's just I don't know, man. I think he was busting nuts all night every time he strangled somebody, and he just wore out. That's why he's breathing all heavy. Like he sounds. I mean, to reference something recent, it's like it reminded me of Chimp Crazy, with the sounds like all these fucking chimpanzees make when they get excited and stuff. That's the sound of him under the fucking mask. It's like I was just like, oh man, I want to paint a chimpanzee's face white and throw him in a goddamn janitor's outfit or a mechanic's outfit, and then give him a knife and just throw him in the mall and see what happens. Like this, this would be way better than Halloween. There's going to be like 15 people are going to die.
How about you, Tim? What was your thoughts seeing this for the first time, having Michael Myers chase Laurie through the two?
See, I think this is where the most iconic stuff for the film is for me. I mean, one, it's the classic, go hide in the closet and the killer's busting his way through it. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that was in another movie before this, but this is really where it brings home. I mean, she's in there screaming, he's hacking his way through it and stuff. It just very iconic. He's sticking his head through it. A little bit of Shining action going there where he sticks his head through to, look at her and stuff. The light goes off, all the kind of, a lot of drama going on there. And then I like where, she kind of stabs him, gets him knocked out, and then she gets out of the closet, and of course she does the dumb thing, which I hate in every movie, when somebody either doesn't pick up a gun or drops the weapon they do have because they think it's over without checking to make sure it's over. And the most iconic moment for me in that is where she's just kind of sitting in the door jam and he does that sit straight up thing, which is like, that's such a classic horror thing to see. Like just the whole sit up and they're like, oh shit, here he comes. This is definitely not over. And that idiot dropped the knife, just let me drop the weapon right next to you so you can just continue to try to murder me. And then the final scene where, Loomis comes in, unloads his gun on him, out the window he goes, onto the ground. And then he looks out, and this is the part where I think Donald Pleasance, it's just the best moment, where he looks out and he's like, sees Michael's gone. Is he astonished? No, he's just like, I knew that was going to fucking happen. I just knew it. I knew as soon as I looked out there, he was going to be fucking gone. And he was, you know what I mean? So like 3 very classic moments in this film that I enjoyed very much. The only thing that threw me for a minute was, and I don't know if with you guys, is that you see the house and they show the knife is down in the living room next to that red footstool. So where the fuck did he get this other knife? And then I finally figured out the solution for it, but I want to run it by you guys. Did anybody think about that? Did you now he has, he's left the knife in the kitchen or in the living room, but yet he still has another knife when he's up there. Anybody give this any thought? Randall, apparently
I've
no.
never figured out this continuity problem.
I have not.
Okay.
I have
I didn't
not
notice.
noticed that. You're right, though.
No,
I've got it,
that one,
but I want to see
please.
Cyber. Any ideas?
No.
Okay.
No ideas.
Matt, before I give my...
I never really noticed.
Okay. I'm going to pull it all together for everybody. He breaks into the hardware store. What does he steal?
Well, they said knives plural.
Rope, masks, and knives plural. He had several knives on him.
Oh, nice.
So that's
okay.
where this other knife comes from. Yeah, it took me a few minutes to think about it. I'm like, oh shit, he stole multiple knives from the hardware store. There it is. So he's all Gensu'd up. He's got the entire set on his belt probably somewhere. So yeah. So it bothered me, and then I was like, oh, there it is. So anybody else out there that had a problem with that, let me, there you go. I fixed that continuity here for you. But yeah, that's my take on it. I enjoyed the ending a lot. It had a lot of great moments in it, and I just love the whole, I know as soon as I look out, he's going to be gone. Yep, I knew that was going to happen. So
the ending is probably the best part and what everybody remembers about it, and oddly enough, that's what the sequels all ruin, is that beautiful ending of he's not there, but he's everywhere. Where could he be? And I love the look on Loomis's face, because that's the moment that he realizes, I'm fired.
Randall, did I ask you yet what your thoughts were on the end of the movie?
No, and I don't have too much to add from what's already been said, because you guys have nailed it with the iconic shots and everything in the end. I do want to add, double down on the shots like after the movie's over, before the credits kick in, where it's just like empty locations. I love that. Where could he be? He could be anywhere. He could be everywhere. That's great. And that I agree with Joey 100%. The sequels all like ruin the end because that's the best part. He's gone, and that's the point. Like I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure the movie credits credit him as the Shape, and I love that. I love that he's not Michael Myers. He's just the Shape. He's just a person. He could be anybody in there, and that's the point. It could be anywhere, anyone, anywhere, at any point. And the other thing I want to add is just I like a normal human-sized Michael Myers. I mean, he's tall, but he's not like, it's not the Rob Zombie hulking Michael Myers, right? He's not like a beast of a man walking around. He's just a dude.
Sabretooth Michael Myers.
Yeah, he's just a dude. And that is, I think, so much more effective. And that's also why I don't like the sister plot line that comes in the sequels, because I don't want there to be any more connection. I like the 2018 Halloween because essentially Michael's role was, I'm going home and I'm going to kill anyone in my path. That's it. I'm not going after Laurie. I'm not going after anybody specific. I'm just killing in a straight line. And that is my favorite. Yeah, the Shape. That is my favorite version of Michael Myers. He could be anybody. It doesn't have to be Michael Myers, but he's going to kill people. That's it. Okay, that's all I have to say about him. Great ending.
Gotcha. Did anyone not get a chance to speak?
I have not.
Okay, Cyber, tell us, what are your final thoughts on the ending of this movie?
So the end of the movie, of course, like just everyone has said, is considered super iconic. You know, simple fact, the fight sequence between Laurie and Michael, him getting stabbed in the eye with the coat hanger, the sewing needle in the neck, stuff like that. Him breaking through the closet to get to her. Her thinking that she's killed him, and then he reawakens and comes after her again, and then Loomis shoots him several times. And, I think that's one of the reasons why this film was considered so great, too, is the fact that the main bad guy doesn't die. He ends up just vanishing. And, I think that is one of the reasons why this movie was so successful, because I feel up to that time, if you think about it, a lot of films, either the bad guy died or gets away before the main good guy has a chance to try to kill them. I feel is kind of what the normal kind of movie dialogue was, for many, many years. And in this film, having him like disappear and show that he is more than just a person, he's this Shape, as Randall mentioned, and he just like disappears out of nowhere, and he could be anyone. I think is why this movie is considered so iconic, because it really was that type of deal. It wasn't something they had really seen in a mainstream film, really, especially during that time, and it really just focused on giving us this really great ending where the possibilities are endless. So I think that the ending is very good on this film. It's really well done. Gives you that great feeling of like you can go anywhere with this, especially because he could be anybody, as we've said. And it just is a really great ending. It's really, brings the movie full tilt and gives you that last 20 minutes of just action-packed fun that you were waiting for getting into the film. So I think it's really well-rounded, and the ending really pulls it all together.
Nice. I don't think I could add anything more to what you guys have said about the end of the movie. I mean, the whole movie is basically leading up to the last 8 minutes. You get all this anticipation, you get all this dread, this feeling of fear of what's in the dark spots of the movie, and then it finally pays off, and you see this huge conflict between Laurie and Michael Myers, and it's definitely a movie that I enjoy watching time and time again. So yeah, this whole end sequence is definitely worth the price of admission. Well, with all that being said, I think that then brings us to our rating system, the oh so wonderful, and let's wait for it here.
The Death Clock!
Dang it. Okay. Here we go. The Death Clock. Thank goodness
I've never heard a drum roll that proceeds to give you suspense for the next drum roll, but it somehow worked.
I hit the wrong button. Jeez.
I think it worked.
Okay.
I was
All
in
right.
suspense.
Randall, is this worth taking an hour and 31 minutes off your death clock?
Yeah, I think it is. And then it's worth talking about on a podcast on multiple podcasts for several hours, because I've reviewed this a few times on different shows. Yeah, no, it's great. It's a classic. Some people will find it a bit slow, but they're wrong.
All right, Cyber, how about you? Worth your death clock? You are muted.
Most definitely. I think it's definitely worth time off your death clock, the hour and 31 minutes. It definitely is worth that because there's so many great things about this film, from, great acting, great story, to just really fun parts, lots of great, women in it. And overall, it's just one of those films that you can watch over and over again, and every time you can enjoy it. And you might find something new every time you watch it too. And especially watching it with like all the extras, like the DVD features or Blu-ray features or 4K features, all that kind of stuff, always can help enhance the film too. Listen to the commentaries like Joey has, listening to the little documentaries and stuff like that, or even getting to watch it, on Joe Bob Briggs' show, The Last Drive-In. There are so many little things you might not know about this film that are just so fun and enticing. And so it's just one of those films that you can watch over and over again and always find something new about. So yeah, I definitely think it's worth an hour and 31 minutes of your death clock.
All right, Tim. So this is the first time you've seen the movie all the way through. Was it worth time off your death clock?
Yeah, I was not excited to watch this movie at all, and I was pleasantly surprised. I have to say that the movies Joey has picked has expanded my horror movie palette, and I think I'm a little more willing to venture out into some of these now that I know that they're not just horribly bad, hack and slash, really gory for the sake of gore movies. There can actually be a good story, and I enjoyed the story in this one a lot. I enjoy the very slow burn at the beginning to get you to the finale of this movie. I think it was very well done. It's very well paced, even though to some people's taste it might seem a little slow. And much like what Randall said, is they would be wrong. It's very well paced and very enjoyable, and I think the end payoff it makes it all well worthwhile. So yeah, it's definitely worth your death flash.
Awesome. All right, Joey, this is the last movie of the month. You've taken us down this wonderful road of horror films. Is Halloween worth the trip of an hour and 31 minutes?
The first time I owned the movie was on the Blockbuster Video Presents VHS. They also did one for Night of the Living Dead. Then I bought the DVD. I think my best friend before that, he bought the two tape orange VHS special something anniversary edition. Then I bought it on Blu-ray, and now I own it on 4K.
So he hates it.
So yeah, so I can't stand this movie. I stood in line for hours in Indianapolis in 2013 to get Jamie Lee Curtis's autograph, and they made a documentary about that. It's called The Night She Came Home. It's the first time she did autographs ever for charity. And I could not find myself in the Where's Waldo of people in the documentary. And so yeah, obviously I like the movie.
Well, I have to say that like you all, I enjoy this movie. This is well worth time off my death clock. I watch it every year around Halloween because it's Halloween. There's a little piece of it inside of me always, because this movie is all about mood, and there's something about films that elicit an emotion based on the mood that it presents in a movie that always seems to suck me in. So yes, it is well worth time off your death clock. All right.
Yeah, don't watch it on Christmas. No.
No. That's pretty much it for Halloween. Typically, I'd ask you guys what you watching. You guys willing to stick around for that, or you ready to call it a night?
I got a brief what you watching.
I could do it too.
Yeah, I'll keep it
It's up to
short.
Randall Cyber.
Sure.
Alrighty then. Well, gentlemen, now that we've watched Halloween on this wonderful Halloween night, what else are you watching? What you watching, Joey?
I finished up Chimp Crazy before my 7-day trial of Max ran out, and I didn't plan on watching that. We planned on just binging the season 2 of House of the Dragon, but man, Chimp Crazy from the makers of Tiger King, that is what pulled me in. And now, having watched Halloween, I really want to see the actor Alan Cumming play Annie in Halloween, not Annie the musical, wearing an oversized white dress shirt and panties. And then Tanya Haddix playing Laurie Strode. Eric Good, the director, as Dr. Loomis. And then Tonka the chimpanzee as Michael Myers.
Okay.
Or the late Travis the chimpanzee as Michael Myers, because he's the face eater.
Nice. All right, Randall. How about you? What are you watching?
Are we talking TV or movies or whatever?
Anything you want to talk about?
Okay. A couple of movies I watched recently. Grave Torture, I just watched recently. Pretty good, interesting, unusual. It's by a director, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Joko Anwar. He's an Indonesian film director who's done several horror movies. And the main reason I watched it is because he did a pair of movies, Satan's Slaves and a sequel to that, which might still be on Shudder. Those are definitely worth a watch if you're into horror movies, want to see something a little bit different, something that like mixes like good horror atmosphere, but also is not afraid to ramp up into some kind of over the top camp at times. Tonally pretty interesting. What else? Beetlejuice. Seen that at the drive-in and then went and seen it at a theater with Melanie. Entertaining. Don't need to get too much into that, I suppose. And the original The Haunting from 1963. That's a classic. You should watch that. This time, I've seen it several times, and on this viewing, a thing I noticed that I hadn't really noticed before is how much Sam Raimi borrowed stylistically from several of the sequences in The Haunting for Evil Dead 2. Crazy camera work. Basically, anytime an entity's trying to break in through the other side or into a room, he totally aped the style of The Haunting, which makes me more impressed with The Haunting, I think. Anyway, yeah.
Nice. All right, Tim, what are you watching?
I'm actually watching two things right now. As I think I mentioned in the last podcast, I am now solidly on the second season of the Clarita Diet. Enjoying that. It's very entertaining. Cyber always laughs when I talk about this. I don't know why, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it thoroughly. Wife does not watch that one with me, so that's something I get to watch a couple hours when she's not around or asleep. And then with my wife, I have recently discovered Rules of Engagement. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this TV series, but enjoying it thoroughly as well. It's an older TV series, I think from like around 2007, roughly. And it has Patrick Warburton, or Putty, as many would know. Or if you're a big fan of the Venture Brothers, it is Brock Sampson. So,
Hey, Peter.
Yeah. And yes, exactly.
Yeah,
And then,
Peter.
all right, we're all on top of that one. So the Swedish Death Machine. But yeah, I'm enjoying that series. It's really, really entertaining. I don't know who was writing for it, but damn, it's like one good one-liner after another during this show. So if you have never seen it, you want something to laugh about, go check that out.
Awesome. All right, Cyber, what are you watching?
I've been watching a whole bunch of things. I just went and saw yesterday Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot in theaters. Both very great films. If you enjoy animated films, go check them out. Transformers 1 was actually kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting to be the way it was, but it was definitely worth it. It's a great film, really fun, enjoyable. I've also been watching the Penguin, which is the new DC Studios show based on the character Colin Farrell brought to life in the Batman in 2022. They have that on HBO Max if you have not watched it. Great show so far, really good. Tulsa King, another great show. Paramount Plus, definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. It's on its second season, really done well. And then, of course, Agatha All Along, been watching that and been reviewing that over on the MCU's Bleeding Edge. And then, of course, I just rewatched Halloween a day ago, which was fun to rewatch because it's been a while since I've seen it. And just all around, just watching all kinds of stuff. Frasier. I've been rewatching that from the beginning because I had never watched all of it. So, yeah, I've been watching a whole bunch of stuff. And Santa Clarita Diet is a great show. If you have not seen it, people, highly recommend it, just like Mr. Tim said.
Nice.
Santa Claus Fajita Riot. Yeah. So I got to ask, episode 2 of Penguin, is it better than episode 1?
Yes.
Damn it. I was thinking, but I was like, if the second episode is better than the first, maybe it's worth paying the $10 to watch it now.
I tell you, the actress that plays Sophia Falcone, she is amazing, and she's
hot, but I thought she wasn't a very good actress in that first episode. I felt like she was Colin Farrell's like in this other league.
Well, yeah,
and then she's the TV actress.
Yeah, most definitely. But she really upped it in the second episode. And, I mean, Farrell, once again, fantastic. Fantastic in this episode. I mean, just all around such a great show so far. I mean, really solid, strong first 2 episodes. And, I mean, once again, Matt Reeves is just proving that he is a really, really great creator for the Batman. So, great second episode. I really enjoyed it.
Is episode 2 got a lot of daylight scenes too?
Yes, it has quite a few daylight scenes.
It's jarring because like a murky, overcast day was like the most daylight you got in the Batman.
Yeah, so it's definitely taken it to a new level, showing you a lot more of Gotham City, most definitely.
Nice. And if anyone wanted to know more about your review on it, they should probably check out the MCU Bleeding Edge.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Most certainly, if you enjoy me here on the Middle Age Reviews, you can check me out on either the MCU's Bleeding Edge, which you can find us on YouTube, X, Facebook, all those pretty much. We're always on there. Or you can also find my solo content under Cybernetic Shark. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. We are currently reviewing The Penguin on Mondays at 9:35 p.m. Eastern. Along with afterwards, the guys are also reviewing the second season of Daryl Dixon. But yeah, if you're interested in The Penguin, check out our reviews of The Penguin on Monday nights.
Awesome. Well, that then of course brings it to me what I'm watching, and this is me trying to do the best segues that I can. So there's this thing that I've been watching, but they've been on kind of a hiatus for a couple of weeks. But I've been checking out this thing called the Grawlix Podcast Live Show over at the Grawlix Podcast, and they're a great group of trio of people talking about TV shows, movies, everything under the sun. And I think that Randall might tell you a little more about it here than what I could. But yeah, that's what I've been watching is trying to catch up on some old streams out there. Randall, what can you tell our audience a little more about that?
Sure. You know what? It's a podcast that talks about TV, movies, and once in a great while. I got to rub that in because I know several people are sore about us not talking about comics a whole lot anymore. Thursday evenings, we stream that every week, unless we take a week off at this best bet is 8:30 Central Time. Yeah. Grawlix Podcast. Go to grawlixpodcast.com. It's GRAWLIX podcast.com. A couple of other things. Friday evenings, I host a radio show. If you like thrash metal, death metal, black metal, extreme metal, rockradio.live, about the same time, 8 p.m. Central Time. I host a radio show. I also make music, metal infused synthwave, superscience.xyz. That's where you go for that. And you know what? The show you're listening to now, as well as Grawlix Podcast and a whole bunch of other shows, you can also catch on electronicmediacollective.com.
Hot dog, look at that. That is a beautiful segue, ladies and gentlemen. So, Tim, I think that pretty much wraps it up for the night. You want to take us home?
Matt, you would be incorrect in your assessment of the situation, for I believe there is one more topic we must broach this evening. I
Oh.
believe it is somebody's birthday as of today. A young Matthew was born. It is now an old Matthew. Sir, let me be the first to say happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was gonna say you share a pretty significant birthday,
Happy
except
birthday.
I don't want to say who you share it with because then everyone will know your exact birthday.
It's okay.
No, that's not okay at all. You don't want fucking people to know that. By the way, you don't say his last name either.
Well,
Happy
sir.
birthday, Matt.
Thanks. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me on my birthday night to talk about Halloween. So I really thank you guys for joining us.
Working on your birthday.
But this is
Yeah.
what I like to do. I like to talk comics. I like to talk movies. I like to talk comics. Did I mention comics?
I don't think you did.
Sorry, Randall.
See,
But,
this is what I'm talking
yeah.
about. People get real sore about things.
Well-
Mention the comics.
Well,
But-
I mean, Matt, we could throw you a bone if you want. I mean, if you want to talk about Laser Man or Neutron Man or Tarantula Man, we could talk about those comics because they were in the movie.
Right.
Good God, were those the most generic? What the fuck was it? Like the back of each thing, was the same advertisement too.
Those were all honestly they were all 70s Marvel comic books. They just changed a lot of the names. Like Tarantula Man, that's Spider-Man. Laser Man, I'm not sure.
Cyclops?
Could be Cyclops, yeah. But there was another one they said, and I'm like, oh, I think I know what that one was. But I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Neutron Man, like a neutron bomb, like would be the Hulk.
Could be.
Just trying
Yeah,
to
it
help
took
you
me out of
fulfill
the
that
movie.
little niche, Matt. That's all I'm trying to do is, it was in the movie. You didn't bring it up. I thought, here's your moment.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to stay focused. I didn't want to rib anyone too much about not talking about comic books.
You
Sorry,
heard it,
I'm
Randall.
dig Randall. Honestly,
I-
sorry.
No,
I
it's all
tried,
good.
Randall. I tried to dig you out.
No, it's all good.
All right, well, after we've all said a little happy birthday to Matt, I want to thank everybody for listening to the Middle Age Movie Reviews podcast this evening. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and we all hope you'll go watch Halloween. Some of us hope you'll watch it over and over again.
Please like and subscribe to our show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podchaser. And if you think about it, leave us a review on said channels. Check out more of our stuff on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Man Reviews. Also, if you want to help support the show and wear some swanky merch, check out our show notes for the link to our Threadless shop, where you can score yourself a logo tee or socks or even a mouse pad with our logo on it. And don't forget, we're also, as Randall said, part of the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network, where you can get more entertaining shows just like this one and the Grolix Podcast and the Grolix Cinematic Universe.
Without looking it up, how many times did Nancy Stevens play Marion the nurse? The lady who was smoking in this movie. How many Halloween movies did she play the nurse?
5.
3.
4 fucking times.
Oh,
This movie, Halloween 2,
that's the one.
Halloween H2O, and Halloween Kills.
I didn't remember her being in Halloween 2. Interesting.
I didn't either, but apparently, she's passing by. Either that or IMDb's a fucking liar. It could be.